Hey everyone, this is Lindsay Hoffman, and welcome to the Dose of Bliss show. Today, I have a really exciting guest. I'm a huge fan of him. We have best-selling author of Whatever Arises, love that, and spiritual teacher Matt Kahn. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. It's truly an honor to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have you here because a lot of people ask me where I get my wisdom and information from, and it's you. Like
Aw.
whenever I'm having a bad day, like I'm feeling like
Mm.
a Pablo, I will listen to your YouTube channel and listen to all of your spiritual teachings, and it has taught me and helped me so much. There's just something about your energy, so I can't
Mm.
wait to share it with more people.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's an honor to serve you and so many people around the world, especially at this time.
So I was thinking today what we could talk about before we got on the
Mm.
call. We were talking about this. We're going to talk a little bit about soul contracts, twin flames, what that really means, and of course, your books are all about what arises. Love that. Everything is here to help you. So, I know a lot of people hear people saying those things to them, but they
Yes.
don't really know where it means. So let's start with the how everything is here to help you. So I want to start with that because I understand that concept, but a lot of people will be like, everyone tells me everything's here to help you. So what does that really mean?
It's a great question. I think that when everything is here to help you, one of my book titles, it really is helping us understand that beyond the play of what I like and dislike, what I prefer and don't prefer, what I see as good luck and good fortune, and what I see as bad karma, and all the other labels. Really, beyond all these judgments, everything is here to help us evolve grow into the next level of consciousness. Now, the rub is that what causes you to grow and expand isn't always going to be the most popular or pleasant experience for the ego. So we don't have to like what happens. We don't have to appreciate what happens. But at a certain level of growth and acceptance and embodiment and awakening, what we see is like, wow, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I thought was going to happen. And yet, what a perfect setup and recipe to become an even greater version of myself. So I think as we mature, we become spiritual beings who can want, who can desire, who can move towards our goals. But at the same time, we always get what we need, whether it's what we want, envision, or otherwise. And it's just a very deeper dive into all the gifts the universe is constantly bringing us. And
And how did you yourself discover that?
my goodness, I think it's just been throughout my entire life. I was raised in a beautiful family that loved me, supported me, rooted me on, cheered on all my my dreams and desires. But I also lived in a family of emotional volatility. And when my mom got triggered and she wanted to interrogate, there was no getting away from it. There was no like, I'm not feeling like talking right now. Oh, that's okay. We're going to talk until we're done. And so I lived in a family where I had to constantly face emotional fire and
Mhm.
learn to live in it. And I think because I was raised in that situation, there was never this idea of getting away from something.
Mhm.
And so I think naturally my awareness began to become aware of, how is this helping me? How
Mhm.
is this helping me grow? What's the invitation? Because if you can't get away from something, you start to become friends with and you start to harmonize with it. So I think over the years of just being raised in a family, a beautiful family of just emotional volatility that I wasn't able to get away from, I think when you can't get away from something, something deeper in you says, how can I learn from this? And I think throughout, it's just been a very reoccurring theme.
Did you just instantly, were you kind of born that type of person that you found the meaning within it? Or did it take you time to sit down and be like, really observe it?
I think I've observed my life for many, many years, and I think I would just kind of pay attention to certain things. Like when I'd get triggered, I wouldn't judge my trigger. I would ask myself, well, why did that trigger me? And not because it's bad to be triggered, but what really about that is, you know, getting to me. And what I realized was every time something were to happen, it would strike me as shocking or unexpected.
Mhm.
And I think in our lives, when certain things repeat in our lives, they become less shocking and less unexpected. And I think just for me, as the shock and awe of what's unfair wore off in me,
Mhm.
I just started to observe. And I think we all do this in our lives. We observe and we just start to kind of see something deeper. Like, this isn't against me, this isn't pleasant, but what's the invitation? And I've just seen throughout my life, I mean, aside from my life as an intuitive and working with the universe, I've just seen that everything in life is just here to strengthen our weaknesses. And first, we have to be really insightful people to say, I have strengths and I have weaknesses. And it's okay that life is here to make me better, to strengthen these weaknesses. And it's okay that the process of strengthening weaknesses isn't always pleasant.
And you said something a little bit before that stuck out to me. And at first, it started out as you said something along the lines of like something from being uncomfortable and
Yeah.
unpleasant to helping you. And that to me was like a really big thing to say. Like you
Mhm.
started to accept what was unacceptable or uncomfortable to you.
Mhm.
How could someone do that?
I think for me, because when I was a kid, I was always sick a lot of the times. So I was in the hospital when I was very young, and I always had some sort of asthma or something. And so it's kind of like when you go to the doctor's office. Sometimes doctors have to do things, draw blood or all these things that aren't very pleasant experiences. But the information they gather is going to help you. The procedures they do are going to help you heal. So I kind of think from my lifetime of, now as an adult, I'm probably experiencing the highest health of my life, which is great. But I've always been raised as I was always sick throughout my life and very energetically sensitive, but very physically sick on a recurring basis. And so I think of the analogy of just going to the doctor. Like, it's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to feel good necessarily, but it will help us in the long run. And so I draw on that analogy. And I think so many years of just not feeling well in my body,
Hmm.
have really helped me to have a very deep level of awareness. And, in my personal life, and for anyone who's watching this, it's not to justify being in toxic partnerships. It's not to justify being in situations where we're mistreated. It's actually to help us change our relationship with change. And that the longer we go denying change, the harder and more painful it is. And the more we get in the habit of changing in a positive way, with acceptance instead of judgment, I think the things that are here to help us start to feel more pleasant instead of painful.
You start to realize what the universe is actually telling you.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the topic of soul contacts and twin flames. So obviously that's one of your most popular videos, and it's really becoming mainstream now. I don't
Mhm.
know if you know my background, but my background is as an entertainment reporter. So I work a lot in
Oh,
entertainment news. And lately, one of the biggest headlines is Megan Fox said that Machine Gun Kelly, who she's dating right now, is her twin flame. So everyone's
mm,
talking about twin flames, and you know, I've looked into this and have experienced it myself, and I think as you were saying, it could often be a toxic situation that
mhm,
feels like love or feels like something. And I thought it would be really great to talk about what it actually is versus seeing what people think it is in Hollywood and
mm,
how we can really learn from a twin flame soul contract and define that. And actually, instead of, I think some people kind of look for that feeling and you're like, this is the end all be all type
right.
thing, and that's not all, you don't want to look for the toxic feeling. And I think there's some misconceptions around what it is, so I don't want to say too much because you're really more the expert, but what are
It's,
your thoughts on all of that?
when I did the video about soul contracts and twin flames and soulmates, I just took the terms and flipped them around a little bit. And it got a lot of attention because for me, when I hear the word soulmate, I think it sounds like a term where this is someone who you and someone have gotten together to help your souls evolve, to grow, to expand. And, hopefully that can be done in consciousness. And sometimes it's done with a little bit of friction and conflict. But to me, a soulmate is someone that is helping us to evolve. And I think of the term of like twin flame. Flame is like a fire, and fire burns and melts. So I think of like twin flame as the relationships we get into that can kind of feel like love, maybe more so trauma bonding than love. It comes on very quick. Oh, we're so similar in so many levels. Oh, it's like we're extensions of each other. And then at a certain point, it just can become either the replication or opportunity to heal and transcend codependency. So I think that the twin flame relationship is really where codependency gets healed, and we heal codependency to create space for the true soulmate to emerge.
Mhm.
And for some people, they have one soulmate in a lifetime, and for other people, they have a few. They get remarried. And of course, inevitably, the greatest soulmate that lives in our lives is within our own hearts.
Mhm.
So I think it's really important, as someone who likes to help people heal relationship wounds, that we're not using spirituality to perpetuate codependency, that I'm stuck and I can't do something because this is the person I'm supposed to be with, and all these kind of things that I'm sure you and I both know about. And I think for me, the real joy or the real excitement is bringing healthy relationship building into spirituality. Because for some reason in the spiritual community, in the name of spiritual growth, we can justify a lot of very unhealthy things.
Yeah, you could be like, "Oh, 11:11, it was a sign." I know I've been like this myself. I'm a very spiritual person, so I have
Mhm.
learned from the situations, but I've
Yeah.
also been in the situations where I'm like, "This is the weirdest thing from the universe," and those things happen. So I think it's so important, and what I wanna ask you is kinda how you can separate the 2, because I had to do a
Mhm.
lot of research to realize some of it, like, as you said, is a trauma bond, and it's, the difference between the psychological but still being spiritually connected.
Right. I think the trick is, and this is, I think as spiritual beings, as empathic beings, as energetically sensitive beings, a lot of us are, deal with, experiences of persecution from this lifetime and different lifetimes. And we're so sensitive about someone being left out that I think what happens is a lot of spiritual beings confuse judgment with discernment. Like you go on a date with someone and you say, "Oh, this is not the person." And your mind goes, "Don't judge, give them a chance."
Mhm.
The truth is, the right person doesn't need a chance.
Mhm.
The right person is just the right person. And there are trying times, there are, ebbs and flows to relationships. But I think when we are not going towards a relationship in a codependent way, when we're not looking for someone to fulfill us, we're looking for someone to meet us, not someone to complete us. That's a good way of putting it.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we manifest these really, really interesting relationships that have all these signs around them. And this was the one. And it's almost like giving us in the beginning the fantasy of what the codependent inside all of us really is looking for. And really, it's a chance to really heal that codependency, because once we are whole, we can then attract the wholeness that celebrates, our wholeness versus someone who's going to romantically complete us. We have to be complete within ourselves first. And I do believe it's these relationships, as painful and tumultuous as they are, is helping to make us whole. And so I think it's when someone has had a relationship, the fantasy wore off and they go, "That's it, I'm done with relationships." That's the moment they're actually ready for a relationship.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of healing, but I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel for sure.
Yeah, and so that goes to the part, one of my favorite videos, you talked about how you tell everyone, like, I really watch all your videos, how you
Oh,
say,
thank you.
"Thank you for helping me." You always say
Mhm.
that. So I think that's a great transition, is how can we go from, you're stuck in the trauma bond or you're thinking about the soul contract. There's obviously this pattern that the universe is showing us.
Right.
We think it means one thing, but it's really, if you stop and see what's happening, it's really right in your
Mhm.
face. Like, hey, here's the answer. Like, you already know it. So how do
Mhm.
we get to that point of realizing, thank you for helping me, and we can let go of the anger and realize that and move forward to be better.
I think the first thing is, if you're not sure what kind of relationship you're in, you always want to look at people's words and actions. And as I was getting back to, people sometimes feel like they're judging when in fact they're just being discerning. And are you in a relationship with someone whose words and actions match? That's really important. Someone who maybe says one thing but does another, that's kind of a sign of that kind of a relationship that we're talking about. But I think to get to thank you for helping me, I think the first thing is, if you notice you're in one of these relationships that feels just like this ongoing pattern of stuff,
Mhm.
the first thing is to, you know, get some space from that relationship. Get to know what it feels like to be you in your own space, and see if the person in question adds to that experience or takes away from that experience. And I think really it's hard to get to thank you for helping me before we've walked away. I think thank you for helping me is what we say in retrospect when we say, "Wow, I thought it was going to be this kind of relationship, And in fact, it was just a chance to heal some deep, deep wounds that prepares me for my best relationship. So I think thank you for helping me is what we say when the dust settles,
Mhm.
when all that has been healed has been cleared. And I think that a lot of times when we're angry, it's because we still have things to be healed. I think when we're angry, it's because we expect it to be one thing instead of another. So I think it's leaving outdated relationships that helps us heal the anger. And I think the gratitude of thank you for helping me is what we say in the aftermath of making some of our most courageous leaps forward. And as you know in my teachings, it's loving ourselves and loving ourselves more, not less, that gives us the strength to step out of toxic relationships, to step out of the pattern of trauma bonding, to realize how whole we are within ourselves, to not stay in relationships because we're afraid we're judging someone or harming someone by following our inner truth. And as we take these steps to return to wholeness, then we can say, thank you for helping me, because it's the wholeness within us that's saying it, haven't taken the journey.
And it reminded me as well. I'm going to bring up another video that I recently watched of yours where you were talking about how no one will ever truly know you, like
Right.
for who you are. And when I listened to that, what it meant to me was I used to think, why does no one understand me? I feel like no one understands me.
Yeah.
And so when I heard you say that, it was like, wait, that's true. No one will ever understand you. But then what I thought after that is I was like, wait, maybe it's a good thing that no one will ever fully understand me all the time, because there's so many times where you're in a situation you feel like, oh, I'm really shy. I'm afraid to talk to this person. I'm afraid to go to this for this job. I'm afraid whatever, because you think everyone, like, for some reason in those moments, no one can understand you, but in those moments, everyone can like read your mind. And so all of a sudden it made me be like, wait, not people can't, like, I'm empathetic, so I can kind of read people. So you think like everyone could really, but no one could really read your mind. So I'm like, wait, I can use this to my advantage, actually. It was like an epiphany in my mind where I was like, wait, like I could be like insecure, nervous, feel all these things, but no one knows. I can kind of just like observe the thought and
Mhm.
act, and that really made me real. I had never thought that before.
Well, I think what's interesting is we all are perceiving through the lens of similarities and differences. For most people, similarities means a friend, differences means a stranger or an enemy. And I think that society has a way of kind of helping us learn how to kind of put everything in categories of like, dislike.
Mhm.
Do I like it? Do I love it? Do I forward it to my friends? Do I give it a 1 star review, a 5 star review? In all these different ways we do that in society. Um, but I think, hmm, we're all in our own realities. We all see things the way we see things. We think that other people see similar to how we see things. And really, we're all living in our own like parallel dimension and we're all interacting. We're all here keeping each other company, but no one lives in your world but you. No one lives in my world but me. And that's why we're visiting with each other. That's why human connection is such a beautiful thing. That's why relationships are so outrageously amazing because we're all in our own little worlds. And so we're visiting with each other. And I think the good thing about when no one knows your reality but you, and vice versa, there's an excitement. Like, I'm excited to know you, Lindsay, because I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about how your reality works, how you perceive things. So that means I have nothing to do but learn from you. If you're this big mystery, I have something exciting to explore. But
Mhm.
if I think I know you by my judgments or projecting my known reality onto you, not as exciting because, oh, I know her. And I think really, there's 2 steps to this that are really important. One is when you know nothing about the person you're interacting with, even if it's someone you've met many times before, or you wake up and it's the partner next to you. When you dare to meet someone as you've never met them before, there's a level of presence, there's a level of intimacy, there's a level of engagement. The deepest invitation is, can you wake up each day and meet yourself as
Mhm.
someone you've never met before?
That's true.
And that's the experience I have when I interact with people, but it's also the experience I have with myself is each and every day I get to explore the mystery of me as someone I've just met.
And how do you do that? I understand that's how I think of it. It's some days you're like, oh, in the past this happened to me and this is how I reacted, but
Yeah.
really, letting go. of those things and each day being a fresh day. How do you do that?
Well, I think for me, I've had a series of life changing awakenings throughout my life where it's almost like the held memory of your life in your head kind of explodes. Like I had this experience where it almost exploded out of my ears like this
Wow.
warm liquid. And it puts you into the state of consciousness where things are happening and you're seeing them. When they're happening, they're totally there. Once they're done, it's almost like it never even happened.
Mhm.
And you're just kind of in that moment, in that flow. And so for me, I know what I know in the moment to fully be in the moment. I remember minimally of what I need to remember to satisfy the moment, but I don't carry a lot with me.
Mhm.
And it's not anything that I'm doing to be like this. It's the effects of going through an awakening of consciousness. And I've had so many of these throughout my life, and it just puts you into a state where, again, it's like you're watching a movie. When you're in the theater, it's all in front of you. It's huge. The screen's 20 feet tall. And then at the end of the movie, the lights come on. Where did it all go? It's almost as if it never happened. And so
Mhm.
this is what happens when we become present. And I think there's a very big difference between someone trying to be present and someone experiencing presence. And if we just kind of sit quietly and if we give ourselves a chance to kind of unplug from distractions, repetition, addictive patterns, if we just sat still and we just spent time with our breath or spent time loving ourselves, what we would find is we would start to feel a lot of things drop away.
Mhm.
And if it didn't intimidate us and if it didn't scare us, if we allowed it, what we would find would drop away would be the memory of our life. And what we find is that the memory of our life, even though it's of things that happened, is an idea.
Mhm.
And so to meet yourself as never met yourself before, which means not to interact with yourself as an idea.
Mhm. Yeah, wow, that like, you always have the most amazing things to say, but that I've been there too, where you're finally just like, "I'm just gonna" what
Mhm.
happens when you just stop fighting it and you just let it
Yeah.
go? Um, we only have a few minutes left, but you said you had a couple of spiritual awakenings. Can you kind of explain what that was for you? Like, what
Hmm.
happened and how you kinda came? Because everyone, like, you're watching you on YouTube, you're seeing you here, and you're like,
Right.
you are so zen, your voice is so calming, you just seem all knowing, but you're also, they don't see what's really happening to get you to that point. They just
Right.
see where you are now.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been quite a journey. It's been a 15-year journey, and I've gone through some really life-changing awakenings. Most of mine have been very spontaneous. Like, it wasn't like I was doing a spiritual practice and I did it right and kablam. It was more of like I remember once I was I thought in my old house where I used to live, I thought there was a gunshot I heard in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I was looking at my window like, oh, is there someone shooting a gun? And just it was one big boom I heard. And I realized it happened inside my head. And then it was like this warm liquid was like pouring out of my ears, but it wasn't in this dimension. So it felt liquidy, but there was nothing. And it felt like all the memories of my life just oozed out of my ears spontaneously. And I remember in that moment, I asked myself, I said, what are the words I can remember to encapsulate this moment? And the words were, I am a void of nothing that's void of nothing. And for most people, it's the fear of death. But what death is a doorway into awakening consciousness. And whether it's done because, as a consequence of a lot of spiritual practice, or it just happens spontaneously, which for most people is how it happened. There is like this shift into existential spiritual maturity where all of a sudden you're not defined as someone who needs, who does, who seeks, who fills. And it's like you kind of come inside out and you start to experience yourself more as the essence of your soul instead of as the needs, wants, and desires of a character. And so it's as if who I thought I was died and who I really am was reborn in the same moment.
Mhm.
And these experiences have happened throughout my life, and I've used the wisdom and the energy that comes through me to help so many people heal through my videos, through my events, and all and so forth. And it's just an opportunity for all of us to learn that death is not an endpoint. It's just a continuation to a higher level of consciousness. And we're thankfully living at a time in the world where people can awaken their consciousness without having to leave their bodies. And so this is really just pioneering the next evolution of human expansion. And it's quite a beautiful one.
So for those watching who want to feel that experience, because I think most people have some sort of experience in their life that wakes them up, but it's
Yeah,
a choice whether you want to be awakened or not.
sure.
So, what can someone who's maybe struggling, being like, I want to be like that, but they can't, they don't know how, what can they do?
I think couple things. One is we always want to look at two things. One is what should we spend more time with, and the other is what should we spend less time around. So maybe it's spending more time with loving ourselves and less time ruminating over the ideas we have of ourselves or the ideas we have of others. So if we were to take a break from ideas, set aside what you think of the world, what you think the world thinks of you. Set that aside. And we sat here with our hand on our heart and just to say to ourselves, I'm here with you. Thank you for being here with me. And if we were to actually genuinely start to say the things that we're waiting for so many people to say to us, like if we could stop and just say the things that we're waiting for some other soulmate twin flame to say to us, right? If we could just like, hey, you, the one who's waiting for that one to complete you, who won't? I love you.
I love that. Yeah.
And really meeting ourselves really genuinely, less ideas, more love.
Yeah. Like what we're seeking from others, we're really seeking from ourselves.
That's right.
So, knowing everything that you know now, what would your
Mhm.
advice be to your younger self?
My advice would be have even more fun.
Have even more fun? Why is that?
Yeah, because when I was a kid, I was like I was 40 at 8. At age 8, I was 40, meaning if I could have walked into kindergarten with like a Wall Street Journal and a cup of coffee. When I was a kid, I didn't like kids. I liked adults and I didn't like kid things. And um, when I was a kid, I was just really sensitive. I was really uptight and I was really spiritually curious, but I felt very scared of the world. And so as I've grown, evolved, I'm having more fun now in my adult life than I did when I was a kid.
Hmm.
And so I think I would just say to that version of me, it's all going to work out better than you think. Just have more fun. Because when I was a kid, I used to watch myself a lot. I think a lot of us do this where it's hard for us to be fully in the moment
Hmm.
because we're watching ourselves in the moment instead of fully being in the moment. And so I was just very afraid of other people. I was scared of getting in trouble. My God, that was my biggest thing. And I just think that I didn't know how to have fun. And so I think I would say to myself, it's all going to be okay. Have even more fun.
Well, it sounds like you learned how to do that because when I watch your everything, I'm like laughing at some of the things you say, and I'm like, "That's so true. How did you know that?" So
So
the
fun.
fact that you say like you're having more fun now, a lot of people
Yeah.
are the reverse. As they get older, they have less fun. So
Having more fun.
yeah, so it sounds like you did give yourself that,
I
advice.
did. I
So
did. Thank you.
you're welcome. So before I let you go, what's like the biggest thing you want people to learn or know or get out of this watching this?
I think that's a great question. I think the biggest thing that I would want people to take away from this is that what what we are is love. And what we actually want is time to connect with the love that we are. And what we have been taught is that other people, places, and things add or take away from that experience. And so then our power is given to outside things. I think I would love people to know that there is a love dwelling inside all of us. And it's not just when you think you're being a perfect spiritual person, and it's not when you've read all the books and done all the practices. There is a love dwelling inside all of us that is pure love, that is all knowing, that is all heart centered, that is all of the things that everyone on the spiritual path is trying to practice perfecting. And so, what I like to do as a radical invitation is invite people, instead of impersonating what's already within you, take the time to explore the love already shining within you. Get to know that love, get to know that love as the light within all beings. And as you come into deeper connection with that love, the energy within you will begin transforming everything around you in the most incredible way. So it's not just a gift for ourselves, but it's our contribution to our evolving humanity.
Yeah, because back to what you said, like what we see is like what we see within ourselves. So,
Mm,
what we see, the mirror doesn't change. It's like you could look in the mirror, but it's like it's you who changes when you're like
right,
looking at the mirror, and that's when the reflection changes how you inside looks at it.
right.
Exactly. So, for everybody watching, I know you have some books and you have a YouTube channel. Where can
Mhm.
everybody find them? And find you and follow you because you have literally transformed my life. So I want to share it
Thank
with
you.
the world.
Well, thank you for the honor of transforming, being a part of your transformation. I mean, I'm very honored to hear and receive that. All my books are available on Amazon. So if you type in Matt Kahn, Mattkahn, I have 3 books. This spring, I have my 4th book coming out, which is, I think it's available for pre sale right now. It's called All for Love: The Transformative Power of Holding Space. And it's all about how to lovingly connect with ourselves, relate to others in communication, and how to face a world of uncertainty. And I love everything I've ever done, but it is the best book I've ever written, and it's the most personal sharing I've ever offered. And so, All for Love: The Transformative Power of Holding Space is available for pre-sale right now, and then you can sign up for my free newsletter at mattcon.org. And then, of course, YouTube. We have hundreds of videos there all the time, so it's
You have to subscribe because I want to be like you on YouTube. So if you want to know what I am trying to mold myself off of, a version of me
no,
is kind of what he does. So everyone, I'm going to put that on the screen and I'm going to link it below. And thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to meet you. I'm so
thank you.
excited. And this is literally, I talk all about manifestation. And I remember the first time I watched one of your videos, I was like, I'm going to manifest him to be on my YouTube channel. So
You
finally,
good?
it happened. It shows that what you put in the world, it comes back. And so thank you so much for being here and like sharing all this with everybody watching.
My pleasure. It's an honor.
Bye, everyone.